Raise it, Brian, raise it.
Win or lose, if I come off the field dead, I gave it. That's Guam, that's me, you know what I'm saying? That's us.
Guam Rugby really got lucky with it. It's like a generation of kids that were really passionate about it. They were good players.
We sort of got together and just started trying to figure out what are the ways we're going to grow the game. One of the first things we knew we really needed to do was try to get rugby into the schools.
The expats brought the game to this island and drove it as far as they could, but the next level up was getting the locals involved.
Polynesian culture, the Micronesian culture, the Chamorro culture, guys have got sporting ability. They've got the skills, they've got the hand-eye ball coordination. It's there naturally.
First time that youth rugby ever took place, there was no organized youth rugby. And we haven't even sent a 15s national side to play in any, we weren't even a sanctioned 15s team yet.
My first experience in the tackle rugby aspect was adrenaline through the roof.
I read the newspaper. I was like bored at home, and it said rugby. I was like, rugby? What is rugby?
History.
Learn the game and survive.
Having to transition into tackle was like something totally new for us,
Rugby, to grow on Guam, it had to develop beyond a bunch of white guys. Australians, New Zealanders, Brits, French, who knew how to play the game and had a history of being involved with rugby. The growth potential had to come from organic growth.
On Guam in 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, we had clubs. We had the Guam Rugby Club, which was sort of doing a lot of great things, and the Young Paratoto Rugby Club. But they were sort of more, guys, right, established sort of players, and we didn't have all that kid infrastructure. So we had to make this decision: how are we going to grow youth rugby on Guam?
Peter Baguetta actually introduced it to the kids my age, and he kind of forced us to practice with the older guys, the teenagers. But I guess that was kind of his vision.
Going to the schools and saying, this is an opportunity to get kids interested in another sport. So a lot of parents were very wary of it. That was the other side of it as well when we started to take it into the school.
The biggest thing is we needed to grow the game. We need to put it into secondary schools and all that stuff, right? So in order to do that, we need to have some kind of guidance. And at that time, there's nothing on the web. There's nothing about, how to start up a club or even show parents what is rugby.
We're going to start this slowly and we're going to build on it and give the kids, especially the young kids, a foundation.
There's no social media at the time, things like that. So we needed some basis or information through the parents. So hey, guess what? Let's find a group of kids that have the same common bond in terms of just wanting to play a contact sport.
Paratoto Rugby Club kind of got a bunch of kids together that played football, soccer, that were interested, and we started training.
Me and Paul started having a conversation, and then Josh Walsh came in there and then said, hey, well, why don't we take the boys somewhere? But the big goal, like me, Paul, and Josh had talked about it, and said, okay, what we want to do is we want to show that we can that high school boys in Guam could play rugby. At that time, we still had continental Micronesia, and they had direct flights to camps. And we said, well, maybe, you know, that's where we want to go during our, you know, spring break.
Get them together, we'll travel off islands, see what happens. And, you know, like I said, the rest from there is history.
Going on to Australia was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And again, the fact that most of us have never played the sport, it brought a sense of excitement, but also the sense of unknown of what are we doing?
Formed up, practiced for a couple months, and sent us to Australia to go play a bunch of Aussies who grew up playing rugby.
When we landed there and we're going through customs, you know, the Australian guys were kind of teasing us. They're like, oh, you guys are here to play rugby, you know, you guys didn't get smashed. And we went down to Innisfil, and we won our first game.
We had success that first game. I think we held them scoreless and we won 1-0. Once you find that success, it just continues further and further with passion amongst the group. I think that group of players that went out there and the passion and the memories they got out of it, they drove it from a youth aspect to continue it when I think high school started a year or two later.
We were able to go back to the IIAG and say, hey, look, we can make this happen. There's interest in playing high school rugby.
And they asked, how do we get this to be played in PE classes? And I said, well, give me some equipment. I'll go around to different schools. I'll teach the PE teachers and see what happens.
We really pushed hard to get high school rugby. And next year we had high school rugby, the first year of high school rugby, which I thought was an amazing year of that first year of high school rugby.
Pete was the main driver of that, and it was very good that we had all that, we took a lot of video of all the kids, and in terms of just contact situation, even with growing the sport within the IIAG at the time, we limited the contact area. I think that was one of the more crucial things. Like, girls was only flag, and for the boys and the girls, it was limited contact in terms of just, at least at the breakdown, at the line out, and of course the scrum.
First couple of matches I thought, holy mackerel. But you look at them and the passion and the enjoyment that both the women and the young men, you know, in terms of high school, get out of it.
You walk around and I just don't know all these players. You know, I don't know who any of these people are. They're sort of very different than you probably remember those sort of early days where you sort of knew who these guys were and these girls were who were putting their hands up to play rugby. You know, we were sort of all this smaller community, and it's sort of really happy now. It's a big difference. It's just, there's a lot of people, you know. There's a lot of people doing rugby who don't know other people in rugby, but that's because there's a lot of us, and I think that's a positive thing.
I did a study just to see what participation rates looked like in all of the sports for high school, and when I did that, I was absolutely shocked because rugby had more participants than every other high school sport when I did that study, and I want to say it was about 2012 or 13 when I did that.
In my opinion, it really took off and exploded to the grassroots level.
One other thing I would like to say, Matt, if I may, and that is the potential of Guam rugby that I think is the most exciting is women's rugby.
Clear out there by Guam. Paige Serber, she's making a surge on the far left. Paige Serber giving the beat, don't argue. Then she goes away and she does.
Put in the work, right? Train, put in the work.
Okay, my name is Rose Calvo.
Olivia Flores Elliott.
My name is Kimberly Tugwakta.
My name is Janice Ada. And I've been playing for, I'd say, about 20 years.
It was just a part of what our family was. You know, if you think about all of us together, it was, and if you think of one sport, I would have to say it's rugby.
I was first introduced to rugby through my family. What I can remember was just playing touch, and then, you know, us being girls, but we're like, we got this, you know, we can be tough like boys. From there, when we got hooked on it and realized, I think we have skill, and then we can grow from there.
When I first started playing, it was flag. But even at that, just the way the ball is structured to move throughout the field and how fast it can move, I felt like there wasn't a lot of stoppage, and I really liked that about the fluid, type of game that rugby is.
We were just always practicing, but I remember as soon as I played my first game, I knew this is what I wanted to do.
I mean, I think the women's development has been truly stunning. I think it's been fantastic. And I must admit, I was one of the first ones when they wanted to introduce tackle rugby at high school in the early days. I did not agree with it.
It went so well that the girls were angry. They were like, we want to play too. And everybody was like, oh, we can't let the girls do that. That's too rough. But the girls were very adamant. And I believe it was former First Lady Christine Calvo who was very, very vocal about, hey, look, these girls deserve the same opportunities that the boys do.
This is really something that I think that a lot of girls and young women should experience, because it's fun and it's just, you have a lot of freedom.
Haldra Rogers, she is a beast. She would play with men that would freak me out.
So for females, definitely Haldra Rogers would be number one. She was playing with the men before anything for the women existed.
My name is Haldra Rogers, and I moved to the island in 2002 for a job working with brown tree snakes. And I had been playing rugby in college and for a club after college. And so when I got to Guam, I looked up the rugby club and started playing. And so then when I got to Guam, one, there was only men's rugby, but I remember going to, there was a tackle practice or game or something. I think it must have been a game, like some scrimmage or something like that. And Ross Morrison was like, you want to go in?
Haldra came in and said, can I play? And I said, oh, you're not going to get my vote. And they said, we're really short. And I said, well, the only place you're going to play is fullback or wing.
And I think he was really nervous about putting a woman on the field with men. And I was all for it. I was like, yeah, well, I'll give it a try. I think it sounds great. And it's like, you have cleats? Yep, probably call them boots. You got your boots, you got your mouth guard. And it's like, yep. I'm like, all right, go on in. We also went on a tournament, played in a tournament in Japan, where I was the first woman to play on that field, apparently. They just didn't allow women's sports on the field. But they let me play because I was playing with the men's team. And so apparently I was the first woman to play on this very nice, very well manicured, Japanese field. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I wasn't super afraid of getting hurt, and I instead just got to really enjoy a fun, fast-paced game. Yeah, I loved it.
We may be small, but we have heart, and we go out there and give it our all and make big hits. We don't make them control our game just because they think we're small.
Good stuff, Erica. Now Guam with one player advantage, going for the big driving wedge there. Look at it. 4 players committed to that. And now they're struggling to get it back. As Takuakta gives out the wide ball to Roberto, and over she goes. Guam are in for the first try of the game.